Welcome everybody to episode 128 of the Startup Show. Today I'm here at the Karamba Security headquarters in Hod Hasharon in Israel, and I'm talking to David Barzilai, the chairman and co-founder, and we talk about autonomous driving, we talk about hacking, but also about how to hire the right people for your startup. Make sure to stay tuned. Welcome to episode 128 of the Startup Show. Today we're here back in Israel in Hod Hasharon, and I'm very excited to speak to the chairman and co-founder of Karamba Security. David, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
It's such a pleasure to have you here. I'm very excited about your startup case. It's really an exciting case, but let's first get an understanding who you are.
So I'm David Barzilai. I'm the executive chairman of Karamba Security. It's the third company that I have co-founded. Yeah. In essence, my career is a mixture of a startup entrepreneur as well as a go-to-market executive with more established companies, with the last position before Karamba when I was a VP marketing with a company that we grew business from $260 million to $500 million. Mm-hmm. And with Karamba, I'm an executive chairman as well as running the go-to-market.
I mean, there's a very big difference between working for an established company versus a startup. What excites you about being in this entrepreneurship atmosphere?
The impact and change that you make. I mean, the thing is that with a startup, everything is questionable. With the fundamental question, why to have another company? There are so many companies in the world, and just the question of why starting another one is always quite important, that you must answer in a very clear-cut way, in a most objective way, because entrepreneurs are optimistic. But and here at Karamba, my role is more to be the voice of the customer. Yeah. The founding team, we spent almost a year on our own dime trying to understand the market, the need. Was there a need for Karamba or not? And if so, what is a differentiated value proposition that will enable us to create the impact within the market? And only after we checked all those boxes, after we validated the need was high, that there is a room to address that other companies didn't before Karamba, that kind of where you have all stars aligned to start embarking on that path and getting investors' money, approaching customers, hiring employees, and making the impact that you want to desire to make on that market.
Cool. Okay, so we mentioned Karamba 50 times already. My audience still doesn't know exactly what we're talking about. Maybe give us a short pitch about Karamba.
Sure. So Karamba is a cybersecurity company for automotive. What makes us different than most of other companies is that address the same problem. First of all, what is the problem? Maybe I'll start with that, sure. Right? So vehicles are becoming more and more connected and eventually also autonomous. And unfortunately, there is a pattern. The more when you have devices or any kind of systems that are becoming connected, then they usually become targets for hackers. And the problem with vehicles is that unlike data center, where the most severe consequence of attack, of cyber attack, is loss of data, with vehicles, it could be loss of lives. Not only that, but also the scale of attack is enormous. Just to give you an example, there was a known attack on one of the car manufacturers in the US, only one attack. One security bug was exploited, but it resulted with a recall of 1.4 million cars, meaning that more than 1 million cars were exposed to the same problems. And if hackers decided to exploit that attack, they could affect so many lives and collateral damage. So that's about the problem. Mm-hmm. Now, with regards to Karamba, the difference between Karamba to any other or most of the cybersecurity companies that try to address that problem is that we didn't look at the car as a mini data center on wheels, i.e. we didn't try to adopt data center cybersecurity solutions into the car. And the reason, by the way, is that because we're dealing with lives and loss and potential loss of lives, then quite common phenomena of data center cybersecurity methodologies, which is false alerts. I mean, those technologies are based on statistics and heuristics, and statistics is not always right. And sometimes you have statistical mistakes that result with false alerts. False alerts in the data center are a matter of inconvenience. But with the vehicle, due to false alerts, if a legitimate command is mistakenly considered to be malicious and then prevented, or blocked, then it means that airbags may not open, brakes may not engage, which is very unpleasant consequence. So what makes Karamba different is that we looked at that industry not as a data center problem or a mini data center on wheels, but we looked at the car as an array of Internet of Things devices that are all connected. And the difference is that with IoT, the device is not user changeable, meaning if you lock it, if you freeze the configuration of that device, and you ensure that it runs only according to factory settings, in essence, you are able to prevent hackers that try to change those factory settings, and you do it in a deterministic way, not statistical way. If I didn't see you in factory, I'm going to block you.
Right.
And that means that we were the first to come up with a solution that enables prevention with zero false alerts. And that message got the market's attention quite fast and in a very impactful way. So within 2 years after launching the company, we're working already with 17 different car manufacturers and tier one providers in that industry. We were recognized twice in a row, 1 year after another, as the best cybersecurity product for the automotive industry. We were recognized by Gartner as a cool vendor for IoT cybersecurity because we're doing things different in a way that is adequate to the market, addresses customer needs, but also didn't think about that as a kind of like in a traditional way, but more as vehicle architectures are designed.
Sure. I mean, like you have a very deep insight into like what's going on in the autonomous driving sector or like industry. What do you see like it's holding us back from, getting there that actually the cars are driving by itself?
Trust.
Trust.
So it's always trust.
People are worried that like...
It's first of all, we haven't even gotten to the point of people are worried. Vendors in that market are very cautious. They understand the liability and accountability for people's lives. And as such, before they roll out new technologies to the field, they want to be quite certain that they do not create some risks or life-threatening risks. So first of all, they need to trust the technology. And then they need to make sure that consumers trust the technology. So it's a compounding effect of trust from vendor and then to consumer that eventually will enable the rollout of mass autonomous driving.
I mean, when you look at like the cybersecurity world as one of the key things, for example, the strength of Israel. Also, where do you see, let's say, differences when you look at cybersecurity, for example, all the software and tech that we had till now, and in comparison to autonomous driving?
So unfortunately, these are very different environments. And look at it that most of the cybersecurity in the world, not just in Israel, try to address the problem of enterprise cybersecurity, some consumer with antivirus, and mobile, which is kind of like a variant of enterprise because mobiles are either consumer, but it's more interesting problem from enterprise point of view because there's more at stake. All those environments are user changeable. So they are very dynamic. Think about it that when we unbox 2 servers or 2 mobile phones, within a week, they behave differently. Because the IT administrator within the data center or the consumer for the mobile phone just do many things different they want to do in order to customize and to personalize those devices according to their own rights or merits or needs. So that means that suddenly what you have is a very dynamic environment that you cannot predict its behavior. And as such, cybersecurity for data center and in Israel, with all of the innovations there, is trying to predict and trying to profile in the most efficient way those stochastically changing environments. Autonomous driving, IoT in general, but driving as a forefront of IoT is a different domain. That domain means that it's based on devices that are not user changeable. Think about it that if we look at vehicles that are from the same manufacturing or series, after a year they should perform the same. And after 10 years they should perform the same. That means that in essence, actually we have a great opportunity here. So it requires different expertise. But the opportunity from cyber point of view is much, much higher in order to harden it in a way that would not allow malicious factors to try to change those devices by exploiting security vulnerabilities.
Sure. I mean, you briefly mentioned before that like a co-founders spent like 1 year on like trying to figure out like what is this product that the market actually wants. Maybe you can elaborate a little bit, especially for the investors out there, how you actually put that, into action. How did you figure out that like this is an actual need?
There's always the challenge that as a startup, especially it's in infancy stages, you don't have too much resources nor exposure to the market. And we made sure, we tried to do the best we could to overcome those challenges. We were not automotive experts. We didn't know very basic terms that were quite new to us. But we must have learned as fast as we could while adjusting what we do and trying to fine-tune what we're doing. How do we do that? You must get out of the lab, you must get out of your comfort and get to talk to as many individuals that you can, whether in Israel or overseas, and run by them your hypothesis and try to get them telling you where you're wrong. Mm-hmm. The main thing is to know that you're wrong. You're always wrong. You're always wrong. And that's when nirvana starts approaching you, because there's no nirvana ever. But the point is that you need to get this feedback to understand how far you are from learning the actual pain. There's always a pain, but the question is it an emotional pain or intellectual pain? How high is it on the scale of those customers? And if it's not high enough, forget it. Move to a different business. Right. It's just a waste of time. Right. So what we did was to start by getting people as part of our ecosystem, running it by them and asking them to introduce us to other people. And we got another thing that played to our benefit, we were not aware of, was that Israel is becoming more and more of a center of auto tech. Mm-hmm. And that means that the car manufacturers are placing scouts here. And they introduce us to the relevant product executives within the car manufacturers. Mm-hmm. You have cybersecurity teams of some of the car manufacturers here, and we ask them as well. And we asked for meetings there. We spent our own dime to go to meet with those security teams and product architects of the tier one and the car manufacturers in person, mm-hmm. tell them our thoughts of the problem and the solution. Now, while we did that, we continued to develop. Mm-hmm. So it was important to create a prototype, to film it with an iPhone and show it to them, how we hack a car and how we prevent. And now we look at it and we kept on laughing at us how naive we were, but it was still close enough to get them enticed and tell us that they want to engage and they want to be part of that process. The thing was to break this barrier of being foreign to the field, being in Israel, which is far from the actual market, and get in front of the customers in person, get their feedback, indirect feedback, so we can judge by the body language that is just nice to us, and all that, but get to the pain. Right. When we got to the pain, which was false alerts, we honed in on it.
So, you just mentioned, you gave me the perfect segue about Israel. How is it for you as a small company from Israel to go abroad, like let's say the States, and how are the reactions people here from Israel?
There's high respect to Israel. Again, I'm representing the customers, I'm always cynical, and I'm always trying to check it. Is it just to get the gist of good ideas, and then I'll do it myself, Could they really rely on Israeli companies, and so on. Although we are mostly in Israel, but we do not consider ourselves to be an Israeli company. Mm-hmm. So, we Israeli we incorporated in Israel. It was even something that we debated at the beginning. We said even for Zionist purposes, we want the company to be Israeli. Yeah. It's part of the Israeli economy, part of the Israeli GDP, and I wanted to make sure that it's part of that. It's part of our own ideology. It's very important for us to be at least, for each of the executive team to be at least a week to 2 weeks per month of us who live in Israel to be out of Israel by the actual customers in order to bridge those gaps. Ask the customers not to give us any kind of benefits. Not because of size, and not because of being remote. The thing which is important to us is to get from them the most, let's call it objective KPIs for them. Yep. Qualify it with them and quantify it with them. Is it really important to you? Forget where I am. It really doesn't matter. Is it really important for you? And if so, then we are driving or flying out or moving resources to support them on site.
One last thing about, let's say, the Israeli ecosystem here. What do you think when you look at the local level, how it is going on here, the startup ecosystem? Is it like working for your benefit, or you're not really taking usage of the local ecosystem?
The beautiful thing is to see how it has matured. Mm-hmm. You see so many entrepreneurs that did a good amount of time working, relocating out of Israel and gaining some kind of more international experience. But it's not just entrepreneurs, it's not just all the employees. You see it also with the service providers. One of the things that has happened to us without intentionally planning it is that all of our service providers, from the accountants, going through the IP lawyers, going to the actual corporate lawyers, and so on, they've all spent years out of their career outside of Israel getting this international, let's call it, principles of doing business.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's about the non-autotech. The other thing that happened is that because Israel created some cachet of innovation in so many fields, and because the automotive industry is now so thirsty for innovation, given that they are facing competition coming from the technology companies like Google doing now Waymo as an autonomous driving vehicle, Uber is moving for autonomous driving, and so on, then they must innovate much faster than they used to.
Sure.
And with that, Israel is attracting lots of attention as well as resources of those companies that are placing them here. So suddenly, the ecosystem of service providers, employees, but also your customers are here. Mm-hmm. And that makes things much more easier and much more complete when you go to market.
What would you like to see in the next 5 years in your ecosystem?
Autonomous driving becoming mainstream.
What traits do you look for when you hire someone?
Integrity, all for one and one for all, and overachievement.
How do you check overachievement?
Easy.
Easy?
Very easy.
How?
I cannot say all of my secrets, but it starts with the resume. You look for the actual achievements stated in the resume. And then in the interview itself, it's not just about it. It's not about personality. It's not at all. I mean, personality is important because eventually you want to work with those individuals. You're asking them the quite quantifiable questions about certain points in their career where you suspect they have overachieved. Mm-hmm. And if they have overachieved, that's great. Just a matter of give them the opportunity and they will overachieve. You see this kind of restlessness within an individual. And then the question, could I tunnel that restlessness within the individual to overachieve here as well?
Right. Okay, cool. Do you have a story of how you turned failure into a learning experience?
Wow, yes.
One inspiring moment.
And it's not inspiring. It's something I'm upset with myself still. The idea is that with my second startup, I was very fortunate. The first did great, was great. And the second came too fast. Investors came and said, hey, there's this great market going, hey, read those Gartner reports and these analyst reports. It's just going to explosive growth. Here's a great entrepreneur, technical entrepreneur with a great idea, and here's $5 million to start. Mm-hmm. And I was kind of said, why not? That's great. The market looks great. I know the entrepreneur, and the investors were great, and so it's all good. It wasn't good. It wasn't good because that market never arrived. The market has never materialized, never. And all companies that were attracted to this potential growth of that market all died. All of them died. Just a matter of when, due to how much money they raised.
Yes.
One of them raised $80 million, so it took it 10 years to die. My lesson from it, and that was a trauma. I'm still embarrassed, when I think about it.
Yeah.
And the idea was that the lesson for me was to qualify it very thoroughly, qualify the need. It didn't just come by itself.
Yes,
it came because of that failure. To qualify the pain, to customer pain, to realize it's real, to extrapolate, talk to several, not too many. You don't need to get into analysis paralysis, but it's relatively easy to abstract. So when you talk with a few customers and you realize that they have a similar pain, it shouldn't be identical, but quite similar, and it's high on their priority list, then you have a market. Then you just need to do the numbers. Then you do some homework. How many of them are they? Total available market calculation, stuff like that, to see it's really worth it. But the point is that there's nothing but customer, and in that it's customer pain.
What's important to you in an investor?
Passion, ability to roll up their sleeves and work, and being humble. We still are very fortunate to have those kind of investors. They're very different. They're very different from each other. And we also take pride. I believe most of our investors, for them, it's the first investment in Israel.
Oh, wow.
Because they're different, then you need to work with them somewhat differently. But because we all share the same values, because they are humble, and because they are willing to help. And you need to, now as an entrepreneur, you cannot just rely on that they will help. You need to cooperate and to ask for help, and to direct them for their strengths, area of strengths, where you need this kind of help.
The last part of my videos is always where you can leave like your legacy to the future, where you can give us like one little sentence of advice for future entrepreneurs. I don't know where you feel you're an expert, but maybe you give us like one line of advice what you would give to the people watching out there.
Entrepreneurs must be very optimistic. If you're not optimistic, you don't start a company. And you need to make sure that the optimism does not become your enemy, because you want also to prove yourself that you are right. So you're looking for reasons and for some of the good phenomena and good results of what you did to justify the journey that you embarked on. But then you need to all the time take a step backwards and ask yourself very difficult questions. Is it real? Am I really onto the right customer need? What could kill me tomorrow? We are very paranoid. It's not easy to be an entrepreneur. But you need to ask yourself all the time, what could kill me tomorrow, and address it. My lesson with the 3 startups, and in startup it's much easier to see it. In large companies, it takes time until you see the consequences and the domino effect. Sure. But in startups, the domino effect is clear. So the point is that when you see when you up to a worrying signal, any worrying signal, take a step back, get your team. I mean, first of all, analyze to yourself, could it kill me tomorrow? Could it kill me if worse comes to worse? Mm-hmm. And if so, then you must get to an emergency status and get to, with your executive team, share your concern, make them share your concern as well, and overcome it. But even if it requires a pivot, if it requires some help, and so on.
Very good. David, thank you so much for being on the show today. Thank you very much, everybody who tuned in today. Stay for a few more seconds so you'll see who is up next week, and I'll see you in the next one. Have a great day.
Hi, my name is Shlomo Mervis. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Intelligo Group, an automated background check company solution based on AI and machine learning. Make sure to tune to our next episode next week on Monday and subscribe to our channel.